Okay, yeah, thanks for having me tonight. So as Brian said, as most of you know, I guess I am the adult ministries pastor at Oasis now in the city. I've been there a year and 4 months, something like that. It's been a big change for our family, but I love my new role. I love the team I get to work with, and our whole family has jumped right in and become a part of it. I'll just clarify, by no means of my own, Kennedy is on staff at church now, so she doesn't work for me. She was working with the kids ministry, and I think she has a new position. She's going to be like a personal assistant to Dustin, our lead pastor, and our exec pastor, and so that's been fun. The boys are involved, and you'll see some of Owen's pictures on Instagram on Sunday morning, so he does that. And Dorian's playing the worship band for our youth retreat this weekend. They're all busy, so it's been great. So yeah, I am absolutely convinced. So I was a health plan at Oak Bluff in 2005. I'm convinced that the church is the most incredible invention ever, if you can call it that. I guess if you can call it an invention. Jesus decided this would be his plan, right? His people, his followers in community with one another, and they were just to be this irresistible force in the world. A city on a hill, right? A light to the world. And so one of the greatest benefits of the church is exactly what every person in the world craves, and that is community. This was really touching for me. We have a pastor that we have a connection with in the Netherlands, and I found out recently that he's using the curriculum that we make. So we make all of our own curriculum. That's one of my roles. We make videos, teaching videos. And he translated it all, and he was hoping for 60, 70 people to come to his launch of life groups. He had 140. He just chose one of our series, and so that was really something to find out that this pastor in the Netherlands is using our material to create his life groups, and that was just really moving for me to know that. Just lately, we faced some difficult times as a church. Dustin's mom, lead pastor, his mom passed away in the fall. And so over and over again, I've actually been asked by people, what do people who don't have faith do in these situations? And I don't have an answer for that question, actually. I really don't know what people without faith do when they hit life's toughest moments. And so, you have to wonder why people would choose to do life any other way besides the way that the community works in the church. And so, my role at Oasis, I preach about 10 times a year. I gotta tell you this, it's way easier to talk to 1,000 people in the dark than it is this. So, I look after our missions program, so maybe Judy taught me some things like 20 years ago when we were on the missions committee here together. We just launched a Malawi partnership there, and I also oversee our life groups ministry, so kind of, Swiss Army for now. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. We're currently actually looking for a life groups pastor. We're filling a position that we've had, so that person will assist me as well. And I think that maybe shows you the priority that we put on life groups, like at least 2 full-time staff positions plus some admin help with that. The life groups are absolutely central to what we do, and I'm going to try my best to convert that to where you are and where you could go with it. We have over 70 groups running this year. We have over 900 people in groups, so we have over, I think, 120, 130 leaders. So we really believe that life change happens best in groups. We regularly see our life group leaders baptizing people on Sunday morning who have come to faith in their life groups. I officiated a wedding this summer where I sat with the couple's life group at their wedding. So the whole group was there, and then they stuck Pastor Troy and Cora with them, so we got to meet all of them. And so you can just see how life groups are central to what we do and how they convert into community for people. So the size of the church, I don't think it matters when it comes to life change like this. And so when I get to tell my story, and I think some of you have seen me do this before, I will often point back to the young couples Bible study group from like 1998 here. So maybe you guys remember that, some of you do. It wasn't necessarily the material that we studied at that time, right? It was the people that made the difference there. So how we decided to do life together in that season. It was just a couple of years, to invest in one another, challenge one another in that season, and that, at least for me, defined a lot of the direction of my life. I hope others would say the same. I think you were in that group, weren't you, Robbie? Yeah. And your friends, the people that you do life with, they determine the quality and the direction of your life. And so I know that everyone here knows everyone, so everyone in RFC knows everyone fairly well, right? I think that's the beauty and the strength of a church like RFC. But I'll challenge you with this as well. Sometimes familiarity breeds complacency, doesn't it? Whereas, we have this unspoken agreement to some extent where you don't push me too hard and I won't push you too hard and we'll all be happy together, right? And that's just something to be aware of as you grow. And I also want you to think about this truth as it relates to the way that people who will walk through your front doors and want to get involved, so new people coming in, how does this work where the people that they're hanging out with will impact the quality and the direction of their lives? You have a part to play in determining the direction and the quality of someone's life who's going to come through those doors for the very first time searching for help in that tough situation or whatever it might be. So I'm going to talk just a few different levels here. First, I'll talk about the idea that life group is part of a bigger strategy. So I know lots has changed here in the years since we've been gone, so I went to your website to see what it says lately, and it tells me a couple things. First, it says that the values of RFC are to make disciples, care for the community, encouraging people to realize their passion, and providing opportunity for mission. And second, specifically about life groups now, it says that life group ministry creates the environment in which caring can take place in real and practical ways. So I think what's going to be important for you all to understand and kind of develop together is where does life groups fit into your overall strategy? And so just again, coming back to my context, as we're leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus, we think about three environments, and these are just kind of fun. These are the names that we've given them. First is their foyer environment, and so this is for brand new people, right? This is for guests they're invited, and everything about a foyer environment is to make them feel welcome. I mean, almost annoyingly to the details that we put into making sure that people feel welcome. For us, our Sunday morning is a foyer environment, and so we can get criticized sometimes about what Sunday morning looks like, or whether it's deep or not deep, or whatever it is. And we kind of ignore that because we know that Sunday morning is designed specifically for people to invite people to church who have never been before. It's a foyer environment. Then we talk about a living room environment. It's kind of the second step. So we're walking through the house. You have your foyer, then you have your living room. And this is where you invite friends and you meet with people. For us, this is where we try to start to get people involved. And so that would be our serving teams where they're volunteering for holding doors on Sunday morning, helping in kids ministry, whatever it would be. But then we talk about kitchen environments. So we go foyer, living room, kitchen. Those are the three. And you all know that real life happens in the kitchen, right? So that's where the real heavy-duty conversations happen, authentic conversations, tears are shed. You got to sit mom and dad down at the table, when you tell them you're getting married or a baby's coming or whatever it is. Where the good news is shared. And so our goal is to move people through those environments, from foyer to living room to kitchen. And we talk a lot about wins in as a staff. We talk about, what are some wins you've experienced lately? When people join a life group, that's a win for us. They've moved through and they want to experience community like that. And that's an important measure of a healthy church. So that's our overall strategy, just something for you to think about as you're going. So now I want to talk about like why life groups. Why do we do that? So again, in our context, one of the big reasons that we do life groups is because it supports our strategy of investing and inviting. So we really encourage our people to invest in relationships outside of church, and then when they're ready, they invite them. And they invite them into an environment that they know exactly what it's going to look like Sunday morning. So again, I know. So for you guys here at RFC, I know that you have Sunday morning. That starts with Sunday school for all ages in the hour before the service. Then you have your worship service. Then you have your youth groups during the week. And then you're doing life groups now. And you do have some duplication there in what you're doing. And so if you're okay with that and you're aware of that, that's totally fine. But for us, actually, weekday life groups are the sole focus for adults 25 plus. So we actually have a college and career thing that runs on Thursdays. But life groups are the sole focus for us. So that frees people up to invite their friends, to come with their friends on Sunday morning, to volunteer at other times. We don't do men's ministry, we don't do women's ministry, we don't do anything else. We do life groups. And that has pros, that has cons. That's not a one-size-fits-all, it's just a choice that we've made. Life groups have a couple of strengths, well, a number of them. I'll share two of them with you really quick. They really are conducive to the development of authentic life together. Life groups are a predictable environment for us, so I'll explain that in just a moment. They're the best environments for developing accountability, belonging, and care. Homes, all our life groups happen in homes, except our 55 plus, because there's lots of them, and so they come to the church on Wednesday afternoons. But homes are warm and inviting, and so the size of a life group just makes sure that nobody slips through the cracks, right? Everybody is noticed. And as an added bonus for life groups, depending on your stage of life, there's no real time constraints. So we let life groups set their own times. Your weekday evening can run as long as you decide, and so you don't have to worry about conflicting with other programming or events, right? You don't have to get out of one thing to go to another. Life groups are also optimal for sustained life change, and so I'll just be really clear up front on this one with you, the way we do this, that the way we organize and run our life groups, learning more stuff and gaining more knowledge is not our primary goal. Okay, so knowledge is not the primary goal. It's one of them, but we want to see people spiritually grow. I'll talk about that a bit more. We want to see them grow in their relationship with Jesus in ways that are seen and celebrated, and we do have ways to define that I'll share with you. But connecting with other believers is crucial to our spiritual growth, and so that's the driver for our life groups is finding that place where people will find community and relationship and encouragement and growth. And then there is knowledge that they'll gain, but that's, they don't show up with the purpose of doing the curriculum and going home. So if you want to write questions as we're going along, I'll spend as much time as you want answering questions until we get to the end here. So the purpose of our life groups is to provide, again, this predictable environment for people where authentic community and spiritual growth can happen. Totally honest with you, life groups are anything but predictable, right? We're all broken people, and so sometimes people have commitment issues, sometimes people get sick, they have scheduling conflicts, life happens, people are dealing with things. So one of my favorite authors is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. You need some time to read him, except some of his easier stuff. But he said this, he says, it's easy to love the ideal church, and it's hard to love the real church. So that's just something we keep in mind. So when we say predictable life groups means the who. Okay, so again, this is just food for thought. Our life groups are closed from October till April. And now we have people sign up basically every week on Sunday mornings. They'll sign up for life groups. We will ask life groups if they will accept new members, and they will run that past their group before we place them. And that's up to the leaders in the group together. If they're willing to have new people, but if they got stuff going on that they need some time to themselves, that's fine. We keep those groups closed unless they tell us yes for a season, for one season. And that just allows for intimacy and trust and relationships to develop. Life groups, so again, talking about authentic community, life groups are where authentic community happens. So you get past the, hey, how you doing, Bob? Yeah, I'm good, Joe, and good to see you, away we go. Real relationships, real community. We teach our groups to even ask really simple questions. So at the beginning of every life group, our groups meet every week. At the beginning of every life group, we say, tell your group what your high and your low of the week is, and answer a fun icebreaker question. And so just asking, what was the best part of your week? What was the worst part of your week? That is very purposeful in getting people to foster authenticity, and they actually start thinking about it through the week. I'm going to life group on Thursday, like I need a high and I need a low. They start thinking about what's going on in their life. We spend time praying for one another. For us, again, so you'll see, of course, our life group program has been running in its current form for 12 years or more, and it's been running in various forms for about 20. So you'll see we have lots of stuff defined, and we can share that with you, but you might want to start with just a few things. But authentic community for us means three things. It means accountability. This is a time and a place. There's a process where we can grow and mature as followers of Jesus. In life group, you're allowed to challenge one another's priorities in life. Your relationships, you encourage growth in one another. Authentic community means belonging. So again, our groups meet every week, and the goal of that is community and relationship, not completing a specific study. And so if you miss, you'll be missed if you don't show up at group. You contribute to the others that are there. So it's amazing to me, actually. I don't do this well, so I'm learning for others, but like lots of our groups use WhatsApp. They're all on, they got chats going all the time. They're sharing their prayer requests, they're sharing the challenges that they face like every day. Keep in mind that more than ever before, right, our society prioritizes belonging before believing. And so if you're going to prioritize here, if you're going to prioritize reaching out to people that are moving in, and this place is just growing like crazy since we've been around, life groups are a brilliant way, actually, to make people feel welcome, right? To help them feel like they belong, give them the opportunity to just walk along with others who have a faith that they might not share yet, but they get a chance to come in and experience that community, and you get to take them further along in their faith. It is stunning to me. I visited a group just a couple weeks ago where a wife really wants to come, so the husband comes. So he is not a believer, but I talked to the leader of that group, and he said, yeah, he's been coming for like 3 years, he says, and just this year he's starting to ask questions. And, they can see him moving, even if he can't see himself moving, and just because they've created a community for him to be a part of. And the third one for us is care. So I don't have a ton of scripture in this tonight. This is kind of nuts and bolts for you, but I do want to share from John 13. And Jesus just says, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. This one is huge for me, actually, because I'll just be really honest with you. This was one of my struggles as a solo pastor in Oak Bluff. At Oasis, the primary way, and I will stress that again, the primary way that people are cared for is through our life groups. So it doesn't matter the size of your church or the number of staff that you have. Life groups are going to be where people are best cared for, and I really mean cared for in every circumstance. Like, if we get a phone call that something's going on, I know that the world is burning down somewhere. We kind of are at that spot. sickness, death and loss, marriage and relational issues, children, everything. And so, so this is the hired guy telling you that the Bible never says, a hired pastor should care for everyone. It says we're supposed to care for one another. And so we have, I'm experiencing this amazing team of volunteer leaders who are equipped and empowered to deal with issues. And we come alongside them in that. So, yeah, Brian didn't know I was going to say this, but if I can advocate for your pastor just a little bit tonight, he can't bear the burdens of 50 or 100 or 150 people or more. But when that responsibility is shared in life groups, I am just still in awe of how people can be cared for. We actually become unnecessary almost. And so an example of that for you, I had a conversation with one of our life group leaders on Tuesday. They are in a group, they're leading a group where they're dealing with a couple where there's been an affair, another couple where there's a health issue that the lady actually has to be on some drugs that is affecting her character and it's affecting their relationship, and a third couple who is related actually to the family of the RCMP officer who passed away. The one lady is an aunt, and so they're going through some pretty serious stuff there. And her and her husband had a plan for each one of those. They had each one under control. They've been caring for each one. And then when we got to the end of her conversation, she said, "So how are you guys doing?" Because she knows some of the things that our staff has been going through. So she's done looking after her group, and I've checked in on her, so she's going to check in on us now as staff. And so I really just think that's how the church is supposed to work. We come alongside to support. I did visit another life group just a few weeks ago where they had some stuff going on, and they just asked if the staff would come and kind of clarify some decisions that had been made, but they really had things under control for their group as well. So that's what we're looking for. So again, another win for us is when we get a call from a life group leader, when we get a call from a leader or someone in a life group, they're going through a real tough situation, and they just tell us, we're good. My group is looking after me, and that happens. Far more often than we know. Oftentimes, we don't even know what is happening. So I want to talk about spiritual growth because I've kind of highlighted, that our goal isn't more knowledge, but one of our goals is to see spiritual growth happen as well. So how do you define this one? Spiritual growth is nebulous, right? It's just, how do you gauge spiritual growth? And so we have 3 gauges for this. The first one is intimacy with God. We do want to see people grow in their relationship with God. As I said, we create our own curriculum, and that typically augments the Sunday morning. So I know what's coming in the next few weeks. And so we create curriculum, which includes a 10-minute or so teach, and a handout with some discussion questions. And we try to make sure that the discussion questions go from easier to deeper along the way. And we always tell our leaders, this is a menu, not a manuscript. So just pick 2 or 3 out of the 7. That can be your evening. And so that's how we do it. And I'm finding that I'm just finding that having everybody studying the same thing that's rolling out of Sunday morning, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I have commented on it a few times that there is this unity in that I haven't really experienced before. You got almost 1,000 people studying the exact same thing, talking about the same thing, talking about the same questions, and it just brings them all together. So that's the first one. We want people to grow, or sort of spiritual growth is intimacy with God, and then community with insiders. We really want to see people experience what it's like to do life deeply with people of the same mind. Again, because I said to you, we operate October till April with our groups, but as a general rule, again, I'm discovering that they will generally meet throughout the summer, groups will. And so many plan summer vacations together, especially our young families. I see lots of pictures of that. They continue to serve and volunteer around the city. There are guys' weekends, there's ladies' weekends. Our life groups often sit together in church on Sunday mornings. They just buy into this idea of community, and they go for it even without us telling them what to do. And the third one, actually, a sign for us of spiritual intimacy is influence with outsiders. And so, people are growing when they're influencing people outside of the walls of our church. They're helping them move towards the idea of faith and a relationship with Jesus. So you've got intimacy with God, community with insiders, and influence with outsiders. That's spiritual growth to us. A couple more things, and then you can ask some questions here. Just a couple of nuts and bolts on how our groups function. We've got some driving values and goals that we lay out for life groups every year. In fact, we actually have an agreement, it's called a life group agreement, that all the groups sign and date at the beginning of the year. And so those include all these values and goals. I'll go through them real quick for you. Relationships are important, so prayer and discussion we want them to participate in. Those are key elements for us. They're not the driving force again. We want them to build relationships. Our leaders are not dictators. They're not the experts. We train our leaders in the fact that they're just facilitators. Right? We're providing them with the material, just facilitate a discussion. And so that's all we ask them to do. So relationships is one of our values. Authenticity, just be open and authentic and transparent. We want people to be free to be themselves. That doesn't always go great. So, we get feedback. Our life groups aren't perfect. I get feedback all the time. I got this guy who won't shut up. And, that happens for us too. And so we have to deal with that. But we want people to be authentic. Confidentiality is huge for us. So basically what happens in that group just stays in that group. They're not going to share it with others. Respect, we want, we really highlight, we don't want spouses making fun of one another or belittling the thoughts and questions of others. We really want that to be respected, so there's that space to be authentic. Being available, so people are told at the beginning of the year what they're signing up for. We meet every week. We want you to make this a priority. I'll actually be honest, I'm surprised at how many do. So they become best friends and they don't want to miss it. And multiplication. So our groups are not forever. Everything's in flux just because of where we are now, but typically our life groups will stay together for 2 to 3 years, and that's going to be a judgment call by the leader. And they'll talk with their group, and they want to grow, or they all have some friends, so they'll split in half, or this one isn't working out for this person. That is quite a job to kind of monitor all of that, but we do want that to be a value that people embrace, so that we're not going to be in this together forever, but this season we will invest in one another, and then we want to be a part of helping the church grow too. And finally, I'll just wrap up with this. So just some typical group activities, because I keep highlighting it's not about the teaching, and so we generally, again, we meet 25 to 30 weeks throughout the year, sort of. Over that time, most weeks will be routine, but we do also ask our groups to do a lot of special activities throughout the year to promote their community, the spiritual growth. One of the things that we ask them to do, and we give them some tools to do, is to have everybody share their personal faith story at some point through the year. So, they can just pause one night and do that with everybody, or have a couple go each week or whatever. We ask them to serve, and so we point them in the right direction of opportunities to serve throughout the city. We do actually help our groups do communion together, and so we do that 4 or 5 times a year, where they're just having communion together on their evening. And funny enough, we instruct them to party lots, and so we have a kickoff party in October, we have a Christmas party time, it's like get back together party in January, we have a wrap-up party in April, and lots of stuff like that. In spring break, we'll probably just 1 week be off and say the same thing, get together, have a barbecue, and do it, we make that suggestion to them. So that's a lot of thoughts in just a few minutes on life groups. That's kind of how we do it. I do think it's much of it is transferable. Again, depends on which direction you want to head. So why don't you throw some questions this way? We can see if we can figure out together how it's transferable. If you got any.
Have you found a number for a group that seems to be most effective, where it's not getting too so small that it's just two couples visiting, but so big that it's...
So we aim at that 12 to 16 number in there. So
is that including children?
No, that's like adults, yeah. So everybody does different. So again, that group that I visited just a few weeks ago, they're a young, I call them a young couples family. They all have little kids, and so they've made the decision that the ladies will meet 1 week, the guys will meet 1 week, and they'll all meet 1 week. And so that just lessens the need to pay for childcare. So, and that works great. Others, I knew one group. It was a staggering number of kids that they just sent to the basement. It was over 20. I can't remember. But so they would just ask 2 or 3 of the teens to come, and they would throw in some money each and send them to the basement to quick get through it. And so everybody finds their own way to make it work. We allow them that flexibility just to do that.
You said that that the leaders are just facilitators, but at the same time you spoke about them carrying a lot of the care for these things. How do you develop or disciple or train those people do they kind of walk in with those gifts already there, or are you training those people into those positions?
Yeah, we're in a spot now where, so for example, we will do new leader training every year. So actually a lot of what you've heard is that's what we would share with our new leaders. There's a bunch of leader stuff as well that I didn't get into. Those leaders are identified often by other leaders, right? So we do encourage them to apprentice somebody to hand off, like, hey, you lead the discussion tonight, or whatever it might be. So leaders, I have the benefit of stepping into a system that's already in place, right? And so that's one of the values where those leaders are always, their eyes are open for who could lead next. And because we'll train like another 80 leaders next year, whatever it'll be. I need to get my mind wrapped around that stuff. So, we're training them kind of what a life group looks like in terms of the care. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, right? So that's part of my role, where I'd say they might just call and say, I've got this going on, like what would you recommend we do? Or this is happening, I don't have a clue what to do, right? And so oftentimes I find if they come in and just have a conversation, they'll actually settle down. They'll either find out that I don't know any more than they do, or it's just, okay, I don't need to fix this. I just need to now move into this role of walking alongside somebody while we care for them together. So. And we do separately, we do have much like you would have like a care team for more serious, right? So we do a meal train stuff and kind of your typical church things along that, or not professional counseling, but people who are better at that than others. If we need to go that route, So we do have professional counseling lined up as well too when we get to that stage. But.
Do you mix up all age groups in a group?
We typically don't. We do, you have 1,000 people signing up for life groups, so how do you put them together? So we kind of have a hierarchy of the way we do that. Stage of life is one, so they're typically, everybody's generally in the same stage of life. So age, where you live in the city is a deciding factor for us. What night you're available, I'm shocked at how annoying that is. Where it's just like, we have the perfect group for you, I can't make Tuesday night, you know. So there is a hierarchy, but yeah, in terms of age, they are generally split according to age. So young couples are young couples, you know. Our group happens to be older than us a little bit, probably, you know, 5 to 10 years, just because all our kids are the same. Our kids are older than most people our age. So.
I see some value in that, but our group has young and old, and I see the beauty of the grandparenting that can happen. I see the beauty in the family oriented.
Yeah.
But I get it when you have a bigger group.
I think there's totally value to that too. We do have some groups that are mixed like that, and they love it. So, yeah, I think the general rule is, that's another thing I get a little bit shocked at, is how much people complain. Put you in a group, well, their kids are 2 years younger than us. But that's you know, that is not the majority. There's just a few that just burn so much time. So totally, you know, and that's something where you guys can all work that out. That might be a great value for here, where you're going to do that mix up and share that.
I know it doesn't work everywhere, but I just see some value in that. And I see some feel more comfortable with their age group, and I think where you're saying it can.
Yeah. We do other things to try to mingle those. So for example, one of the serving opportunities for life groups is to, we serve our senior youth supper every Sunday night. And so that's a serving opportunity for our life groups. And so they come, and I've talked to, you know, some of those groups, like the 55 plus did it a while ago. They just had a riot, like they're hanging out with their kids and cooking supper for them and meeting them, and so yeah, we try to get those mingling, but it is hard, yeah.
Do you deal with people that sign up and end up kind of fizzling out by the end, or is it sounds a lot more voluntary, where someone knows what they're signing up for, so they're kind of committed?
We totally, so
how do you deal with welcoming or inviting? So you talk about that accountability piece.
Yeah.
So at what point do you say, okay, they're probably done, or do you keep calling them every week, or how does that go?
So we encourage, so again, we as staff, the whole staff just takes an entire day. All these names are laid out on little pieces of paper, and we form the groups for them. And then we give the leaders, at leader training night, they all get their list of groups, and then off they go. So they contact the people, invite them. And yeah, inevitably there are lots of people. So we go through another 6 weeks after that, where we're hearing back from groups where, yeah, there's 2 couples out of the 6 they had didn't show up, or whatever it is. So we encourage them to keep calling them every couple of weeks. We will call them as staff and just say, hey, you signed up for groups, are you still interested? There is a process of following up, but you're right. At some point, we just go, they're just not interested this season. So some will tell us that, and others just disappear. And unfortunately, that happens. But